Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with a first look of Kaladesh. So if you might know that PAX West is going on right now, so there's a lot of spoilers going on over at the World Champs tournament and the PAX West that is MTGO is taking part of. So I just thought I'd like to get my first little opinion of the set, and Chloe's here to help me out. She's being a pest, so she's on my lap today. So see if I can even look at this screen here. You're being annoying, Chloe. All right, so I'm pretty impressed with the set. I think that there are a lot of cool mechanics. There have been I've heard a little bit of grumbling about how this set is just kind of too sci-fi or too just not magic, like not the genre that magic is used to. I think this is fine. I think it's a pretty sweet set. Finally get some representation for NASCAR fans because there's so many little vehicles in this and drag racing and whatnot. So I guess they're going to represent another demographic. So anyway, these are the ones that are just spoiled recently. I'm going to throw you down. You're being annoying. And anywho, I guess I haven't really looked at too many cards. I know what the energy symbol. So the energy symbol is going to be pretty sweet little mechanic. Reminds me a lot of gold tokens from the when you exiled something with either Guild or the dude in Theros. So they're basically, but they're not permanent. So they're just energy that sticks around until you use them. So they don't empty like a mana pool does, and that allows for some pretty busted combos that we've already started to figure out, and I'll show you the busted card that a lot of people are talking about that I think is extremely modern playable, and it's going to completely break standard because there's a very, very key word with that card that most cards right now that cheat cards into play in standard do not cast. Like Eldritch Evolution does not cast. Neither does the a lot of other ways of cheating in cards from the graveyard, like the reanimation spells, do not cast them. They just put them directly into play. I think there was a Nahiri. Nahiri doesn't cast. It just puts a card into play. So anyway, we'll talk about that card in a second when we get to it. But these are the cards I haven't seen, so this is kind of a fresh new spoiler. I woke up today, and we do have, let me get you some light here, some new cards. So do not know what this Filgary Familiar, which is whenever Filgary Familiar enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life, and when it dies, you draw a card. Oh my goodness. Okay, I just found the perfect card that for the team for Emerge decks again. Wow. Here, so this card is insanely good. Now, I've been wanting another 2-drop because right now we have Matter Reshaper, which is the best, or 3-drop, excuse me. We have Matter Reshaper, which is probably the best 3-drop that wants to die. And this is just another Matter Reshaper. Like, Matter Reshaper is probably a little more powerful than this card, but this is perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Because of the colorless nature of this, it's pretty easy to splash in any of these decks that want to run like more other Eldrazi with having more colorless sources. We still haven't seen what our dual lands are going to be for this one. I'm hoping that they're going to be the filter lands so that we can actually still have the Eldrazi viable, but maybe they just don't want Eldrazi to be viable right now in a very heavy colorless set because it might break cards. Currently my favorite deck right now, you can go check out gatheringmagic.com, is an Eldrazi Emerge deck. And so the Filgary Familiar is going to most likely just replace Ruination Guide. Ruination Guide is kind of good, but I think it loses value once Whirler Rogue goes out of the format. So if you are familiar with how the deck works, it's an extreme budget deck. It's under $100 over at Gathering Magic not now for this week's playing on a budget. And it runs the Eldrazi Mimic, and then you have a nice little curve into Ruination Guide, and then you have Thought-Knot Seer and Reality Smasher. So you can curve out with Eldrazi Mimic really, really well. But where the deck really shines is both the Wretched Gryff and the Elder Deep Fiend. And Filgary Familiar is perfect for both of those, especially the Wretch. And you still have even Pilgrim's Eye that you can use in that slot as well. So there's a ton of different cards. Delirium, this is another artifact that can go in the graveyard. So in that aspect, is a little bit better than the Matter Reshaper. But I think this is 100% going to be see play in Eldritch Evolution type decks because this ramps into your 5-drop. So once again, I have another beautiful card that can be killed to go get a Reality Smasher on turn number 4. possibly even turn number 3 if there's some way to even ramp this out quicker. And then you'll actually draw a card and gain 2 life off of this Fox. So right off the bat, an insanely awesome card that is going to see standard play in these spoilers. So awesome, awesome. So then we have the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life and get 3 energy counters. Oh, wow. There is already some busted things to do with energy counters. Sacrifice it, you gain 3 life and get another 3. So turn 2, oh, yep. This is the perfect piece. Here, I'll show you the card that you're going to want to use it with because it adds that 6 mana, and then on turn 4 you can Emrakul. We will be able to do turn 4 Emrakuls pretty consistently, or I guess not yeah, because it only needs 2 cards. It's a 2-card combo. Oh, this is just insane. Ulamogs and Emrakuls, pick them up now. Pick them up immediately. They're going to go insane in value. I think Ulamog is actually better to cheat out than Emrakul, but in this type of deck where it's going to help you with Delirium, you gain 6 life off of this, so it's going to stabilize you. 2 solid pieces that we need right now for this type of archetype. The next card is Die Young. Choose target creature, get 2 energy, then you may pay any amount of energy to give it -1/-1. This is just a nice little another ramp card. Die Young can also ramp you up to those energies. Alright, the Verdurous Gearhulk. It's a 5 mana for a 4/4 trample. When it enters the battlefield, put 4 counters among any number of creatures you control. Not kind of weird for a mythic. It is, but this is basically an 8/8 trample for 5 mana because you can distribute 4 plus 1 under any number of targets you can. So you can distribute it. So it's an 8/8 for 5. And also what it's really good is this curves perfectly in a red-green aggro deck. Like I've kind of liked, a lot of people have really hated on the werewolf that flips, and I've actually found him to be pretty good. The problem is he synergized the best with Surok, and now this Gearhulk Surok will be out of the format, Surok the Hunt Caller. So I think we need to find a nice aggressive curve that you can get some advantage off of the Verdurous Gearhulk. But being able to spread like wide on the counters, or if we get any other card like Hangerback Walker that actually can abuse counters again, then I think this card will actually see play. So I'm not groaning as much as most people are groaning about this being a mythic. I think it's fine in that slot. Of course, it's going to be a busted card in Limited. It's going to be a card they have to answer immediately. I mean, you only have a few turns, to be precise, 3 turns. Most likely in a green aggro deck, 2 turns before this trampled card will just push through. So far I think these are 4 solid cards. The card that I'm most disappointed about is the Cultivator of Blades, which is going to be the Game Day promo. I really think that they should choose a better Game Day promo. Languish was awesome, but the Humans one ended up being a dud out of Eldritch Moon. What was the one out of... I can't even think of the one out of Shadows of Innistrad. Wasn't it one of the collective effort? Wasn't that the... I can't remember, but Cultivator of Blades is bad because... I mean, it could see play if we do have this... The good news for Cultivator Blades is we do have a token strategy in green. You have the green or blue can add some pretty decent tokens with cards like Drowner of Hope, with cards like... and speaking of the last card, this synergizes with the Gearhulk. Plus, we know this set has a very huge token theme to it. So between Scions and the servers, or whatever the new tokens are, and Thopters and Constructs and everything that are going to be in the set, I think that having this ability to attack in for lethal on turn 6 through the Cultivator Blades, especially Eldritch Evolution it, so you can easily Eldritch Evolution it off of like a Scion Summoner, or an Eyeless one, or a Eldrazi Sky Spawner, and still have like a token back, and then it gives, when it attacks you, have other creatures get +X/+X until the turn where X is the power. And the Fabricate 2 means that you either put 2 tokens out, 2 1/1 servers, I think is what they're called, or we'll look at it in a second. It will show us on one of the cards. Or then you can put 2 1/1 counters. So you can be attacking and give everything +3/+3 when it attacks. It's also an elf, so I think elf tribals in kitchen play or not modern, a kitchen play or commander will love this card. But all in all, it's really iffy on standard, because we've had a card like this in the past and it saw very little, if any, standard play. I tried to break it. It was a shaman. From Return to Ravnica, when it attacked, you get all creatures got plus, other creatures got +1/+1, other attacking creatures got +1/+1. Got +star, where star was its power, I believe, or +X, whatever it was. Very similar to this Cultivator of Blades. So I'm not going to discount this. It all depends on the environment. I mean, Abrupt Decay and other cards probably kept the card that I'm talking about from Return to Ravnica from really seeing any heavy play. So, anywho, that could be the case with this, or it could just be a nice little curve topper. Again, Eldritch Evolution, or the other decks that I like that it goes into is going to be the Westvale Abbey / the Crypto Right decks. So it could see a place in these type of decks. Skyship Stalker. It's a dragon, but all the dragon stuff is going out. Womp, womp, womp. So this is a card that I think needed to be with Dragons of Tarkir. It is decent, like, late game. It's a decent 4-drop for 3/3, but it's kind of weak at that slot. This just seems to me like your average little, just barely above bulk rare. This is going to be a limited bomb, but probably not powerful in a format that has Grasp of Darkness, and I guess Ultimate Price is going bye-bye. But Grasp of Darkness is going to really, really, really punish this card. Even cards that the 3-mana Incendiary Flow is going to be really good against this card. And so the modes where it gets First Strike, that's okay. When it gets Fire Breathing, that's okay. Haste, that's like a one-time thing. I guess if you Eldrazi Displacer it, you can still give it haste. No, because it comes to play tap. So, yeah, I'm really, really not. So for 5 mana for a 3/3 flying, that's pretty weak. Which is what you'll have to kind of pump into this. And the other two abilities just, I don't think, make up for the weakness of that. I think it needed to be at least a 4/4 for 4 to make this playable, as it would survive the Incendiary Flow. But as a 3/3, I just don't see it seeing any standard play. I don't think Red wants it. There's still like the Ash Cloud Phoenix that I think is a better 4-drop, and because of the ability to recur itself, and it has built-in haste. And there's just much better things at 4 slot. This is competing with like power level of Casella and the Kalitas. Hey, I pronounced those correctly. And some other the cards in the format. So I just don't think that it's going to really see much play. So the Fleetwheel Cruiser Trample Haste. This is a theme with these little NASCARs, is they're all going to have haste. So we're an insanely fast. This almost feels like a Reality Smasher, because the turn it comes into play, it can attack without being crewed, because it becomes an artifact creature. So 4 mana for a 5/3 Trample Haste, pretty good. Where I also like this is, actually I don't think it works with Eldrazi Mimic, because it enters the battlefield, it becomes an artifact creature until a turn. And yeah, that will stack, so a Mimic won't actually trigger, because it says when a creature enters the battlefield, colorless creature. So unfortunately, it won't trigger off of the Mimic. So I think that's a huge downside to these vehicles, because they're not creatures, they're artifact vehicles. And so they don't have a power and toughness. Maybe someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's not, yeah, it doesn't say creatures, so it's not going to trigger off the Mimic. But later on, I mean, it's a 5/3, haste for 4 mana. There are a few little haste type card decks right now that try to has trample as well. So there's an Uncaged Fury deck that tries to use Reality Smasher or the Broken Carriage right now, just to do a lot of trample damage in one turn, and possibly that could fit in a deck like that. But I think that the risk versus reward is too high for a card like this, and especially when Reality Smasher is in the format. I think Fleetwood Cruiser will always either compete with that slot or just become outclassed. It's still going to suffer from that 3 toughness, meaning that the Fiery Temper and the Grasp of Darkness are going to easily kill it. There are a few other cards like Gisela can just first strike it down. It can trade with Kalitas, but not really. And then do 1 damage left over, but then they get a 2/2 for killing it, because it will be a creature that turn and get exiled. I don't know. The card is definitely interesting. We'll have to wait and see exactly how the format plays out if we do get like this extremely fast red-based aggro, because I mean, this is something to be crewed later on by just like a Falconwrath Gorger. So I get there's merit in that, and we're getting some cool little haste red cards that I think we'll see play. Cure Vendor is a filler card. The Terror Fairgrounds is a filler card. The Tassel Dromedary is a filler card unless there's a card that has Assault Formation in the format, which will rotate out. Aether Tradewinds is a filler card. Aetherstorm Rock. 4 mana for 3/3. When rock or another creature enters the battlefield, you get an energy. This is kind of sweet, because if you can go crazy, and it's an enter the battlefield, not like cast, so think of Eldrazi Displacer, and it doesn't say non-token creature. Wow. You can go pretty insane with Eldrazi Displacer and a token producer. So that's another card I think you should really, really look into, is Eldrazi Displacer. a lot of the cards from Battle for Zendikar are looking to have a lot of support and the Oath of the Gatewatch in this set. So again, the big question mark is if we do get some decent colorless mana, because the Yavimaya Coast Battlefield Forge type cards rotating out are going to make Eldrazi a lot weaker. It's going to be very hard to play them in anything but just monocolor decks, and even in monocolor decks, they suffer because you could still play like Battlefield Forge in just a mono white Eldrazi deck, for example. And as it would tap for a white and a colorless, and who cares about that red because it's still basically a dual land in your set. But Aetherstorm Rock is in the colors of Eldrazi Displacer. It's in the kind of archetype that I think that you would like to see with a Crypt with Right type deck, because again, I'm going to show you that card that I think is just ripe for being broken in format, which I actually might think it might lead to a banning, the first banning in a standard format in a long time. Like, again, it's either going to be like insanely good or just completely not. And I think I am leaning on the side of turn 4 Ugins coming out being too much for the format to handle, especially since it's cast, and especially since you can't counter a cast ability except for a nice little card called Summary Dismissal. So there's another card you should look into, like Summary's Dismissal being an answer for the card that we'll get to lastly. Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. 4 mana for a 2/3 whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card. Let's go back actually to this bird. Let's one last time just go back to the Aetherstorm Rock. So whenever it attacks, you can pay the 2 mana to put a +1 counter on it and tap up to 1 target creature. That tempo is not terrible. It's a flyer, so it'll be decent versus like blocking spirits down. So again, if this is like you can probably do close to, I wouldn't say infinite with the Eldrazi Displacer, but I believe like Brood Monitor. Yeah, Brood Monitor, Eldrazi Displacer, and Aetherstorm is infinite counters. Infinite energy, and then infinite counters when then you do attack with the Aetherstorm Rock. So keep that in mind. It could go in that shell. It could just kind of replace the Zulaport Cutthroat. Eldritch Evolution is also really good in that type of archetype, and Aetherstorm Rock can just be found off like an Elvish Visionary if you Eldritch Evolution it. So yeah, that is something that I think that has merit to this card. So don't underestimate this card. I think it's going to have a place, because that ability where creatures on the battlefield gain you an energy is pretty sweet. So Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. 4 mana whenever you cast the first spell each turn, reveal the top card of the library. If it's not on a card with converted mana cost less than the spell you cast, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't, cast the revealed card, put it into your hand. So basically, your first spell you cast each turn, you're going to draw a card. Going to be an insane commander, so pick up your foils for this card. I'm going to love it in a green-blue commander. It's exactly what a green-blue commander wants. It's another reason why Prophet of Kruphix should probably remain banned, but there's still some other cool little cards you can still use comboing it. I'm looking at the Sabertooth from Fate Reforged, where you can return a card and then cast it. There's some it basically gives Cascade to all of your cards. The first card you cast each turn. Could be modern playable. I don't know. It seems to be a little bit of a hard body. Like a 2/3 dies to Lightning Bolt, and 4 mana is quite an investment. And then you still need this. You still need to untap, and then you start to get some advantage off of it. But just remember, you're drawing this card. It's either going onto the battlefield or you're drawing it. So lands aren't going to happen, but at least they're gonna go back into your hand and then play. So it's gonna keep filling up your hand. I think like a blue-green deck with just like Tireless Trackers and Sylvan Advocate, and now with Rashmi, are going to be very, very good. I think without Collected Company, it's going to incentivize running 4 drops, and this is going to be the perfect fit. So this 100% will see standard play. It's a busted card. It's really, really cool. I like it. Whirler Maker, 3. Create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. 2 mana intensive. You don't get immediate value out of it. It probably is just too much. 4 in tap. Maybe a grindy like Esper Control or Black-White Control deck might want it. I doubt it, though. It's just too much mana. Gintsleeve Artisan. So here's the Fabricate. You either put a +1 counter on it or a 1/1 Servo artifact creature token. Colorless Servo artifact creature token. Okay. Too bad Aether Grid's rotating out, because I think Aether Grid would be pretty sweet in this type of format, in the standard format. So this is just your filler card. It reminds me a lot of the, there's one out of the 2-1 that create a 1-1 spirit, or you could put a 1-1 counter on it from Fate Reforged. It was an insanely first pickable card, and I think that it's going to be, this is if you're rare and your uncommons are bad, this is your first pick definitely in limited. Don't quite think it's there for draft, but it's another 3-drop that adds that you can get a colorless creature. So in those Crypt with Right decks, it gives you another way in white to kind of go crazy with those Crypt with Rights, and then you can leave back a 1-1 and then Eldritch Evolution it into something. So this card could see standard play. I just think there's a lot of comparable cards to it that might just be better right now in the standard format, because Catacomb Sifters does a very similar thing, but it's just superior. And same thing with the like Eldrazi Sky Spawner. But those cards have seen play in standard, so the Glint Sleeve Artisan easily could see play. So another solid card. These spoilers have been great. The Sky Skiff flying, crew 1, 2/3 filler card. I don't think it's good enough for crewing. It's a two mana. I don't know. I don't like it. This is your filler crew card. Speedway Fanatic, love this card. Haste, when Speedway Fanatic crew crews a vehicle, it gains haste. So it has haste, a 2-1, and then gives all your subsequent cards haste. It's got the power of 2, which is nice because there's a lot of cards that are like crew 2, crew 3, and this will get you either all the way there, or halfway there, or 3/4 of the way there, especially with this mythic we're going to talk about. The Speedway Fanatic is a 2-1 haster too, so it's going to be a staple piece if there is a crew deck. This is going to go in that. Start your engines. There we go. Shout out to NASCAR, or I guess whatever. I'm not familiar with that genre, but anyway, I know that is a phrase that is used. Vehicles you control become artifact creatures until turn, and creatures you control get +2/+0. So they actually turn them into creatures and then give them +2/+0. So pretty cool in a limited, I think 4 mana. I don't know, maybe in a token base crew base strategy this could go in that, but it's a sorcery speed. I guess you need it to be sorcery speed, or it wouldn't matter, because instant speed you wouldn't want to turn anything in anyway instantly into a creature, because then you couldn't attack. It'd be after the declare attacks and be kind of pointless. But I don't know, this could see play. I'm a fan of these type of archetypes though, so you're going to see me picking up these Glint Sleeve Artisans and these Start Your Engines pretty heavily in the limited format. I'm liking white and red in limited a lot, but of course there's so much more to be spoiled. Architect of the Untamed. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, you get an energy. And then when you pay the 6 energy, you can create a 6/6 colorless beast artifact creature token. So again, this is a nice little dump for energy. You can get 6/6. We'll have to see if this one will actually see any play. This gets kind of crazy with fetch lands because you had 2 energy, but I don't quite think it's there for modern. I don't know. There's some pretty sweet things that we're starting to see with like kind of eggshells with these energy type decks, and like Thopter Foundry looks insanely good with energy, because I believe it says the last card that the Aetherworks Marvel will talk about, I believe it will work with putting tokens in the graveyard, because they are permanents that are going to your graveyard. I believe we'll have to get a judge ruling on that. So Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, flying whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So not a bad card. So you get 3 damage right off the bat. Almost feels like a Flame Tongue Kavu. So more Gazella killers here. More reasons not to run Gazella in the format. Again, I guess the kind of test that you have to do in... We used to call it like the Abrupt Decay test in Standard when Return to Ravnica was out. Like it had to... If it survived both Abrupt Decay and like a 3 damage spell. I can't remember what it was. Ultimate Price Up, Abrupt Decay. There was like a little test to see if a card was like really playable or not. And I think that the 3 damage is going to be like the Incendiary Flow and Fiery Temper and just a few other... right now, Radiant Flames is the only sweeper. So I think if anything like 4 or 5 toughness is going to be playable, and this it hits that mark. It's also 6/5 for 5 with the immediate value. Crew 3 is not hard to really... Again, with that's Eldrazi Sky Spawner. Eldrazi Sky Spawner can actually crew this. A bunch of Eldrazi are going to be crewing vehicles. That's going to be kind of funny flavor wise, but it's then each turn that it attacks, it's going to get subsequent. It can also shoot down like Liliana's. It can shoot down Gideons if they're low enough, or just shoot them down so they're manageable. It's also going to be able to kill some of these new planeswalkers that we see in this if they end up being broken. So I think that the Sky Sovereign Council flagship is definitely an interesting card. I think it will see play. We're gonna see this artifact type. It is a legendary artifact, so maybe just one ofs. But I'd like it in my Eldrazi deck right now. I think that it easily could see a spot. You can actually kill it later on if it is crude. Like if it turns into an artifact creature, you can actually sacrifice it, I believe, to a emerge type card. Don't know if you'd want to do that, but the option's always there. And it's the value out of this card is right on par with standard playable. Depala, Pilot Exemplar. Other dwarfs get +1/+1. Each vehicle creature can go +1/+1 as long as it's a creature. And whenever the Exemplar becomes tapped, you pay X. If you do, reveal the top X cards and put all dwarf and vehicle cards from among them under your hand. So the dwarf, we saw some dwarfs here. Pretty good one. Solid card. I think that this is the red-white vehicle strategy could definitely be a thing. Not too hard, again, to splash in green for other type of strategies like Crypt with Rights type things. If you are going to create a lot of Thopters and tokens, that's definitely an option. So solid card. This might be fun if we can get enough vehicles to make a commander deck out of it. Not a lot of dwarfs. There is some dwarfs going way back. I think Torment had some dwarfs. Fallen Empires had some dwarfs. And I think there was some kind of Dwarven Recruiter actually does exist. So there might be some sweet things to do with this card going forward. Gonti, Lord of Luxury. 4 mana for 2/3 Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile one of them face down, and put the rest on the bottom. For as long as that card is exiled, you may spend mana that you could... your opponent's library. Sorry, not even your library. Your opponent's library. You may spend any mana to cast that. So this is kind of a nice little value card. This is another card that I like with Eldritch Evolution. One of the problems I was having with Eldritch Evolution is we didn't really have any good 4-drops that we wanted to kill. And this is the perfect card that fits that bill. It has a 2/3 Death Touch, so it can trade with something later on. The value is definitely there. I think this will see play in sideboards against decks that I think that you want to cast one of your opponent's cards. Again, Eldritch Evolution is great with this. Emerge is great with this, so you can then emerge it later on and got value out of it. It's just right there on the border if it's going to be playable or not in the modern format, or the, standard format. Keep in mind, this is 100% competing with Kaladesh. I don't think that it can take the 3/4 with lifelink and the ability to exile your opponent's cards going to their graveyard with very relevant cards still in the format. I think we'll always just get the nod over this, but it's still pretty sweet. It is legendary too, so that even hurts it a lot. It's still a cool little ability. Aetherworks Marvel. So let's save Aetherworks Marvel for the last, because it's the card I really, really want to talk about. And I know I'm up to almost 30 minutes right now, but we'll get to it. Saheeli Rai. Or Ray. I don't know how you say that. I'm going to mispronounce names. I'm from central Utah. We say corn with Karn. There's a city called Hurricane, which is literally spelled hurricane. So just know that. It's a cultural thing, right? Right? I can just pull the whole offensive, professional victim and say if you insult the way I pronounce things, you're just insulting my culture, and how dare you? Check your privilege. Anyway, let's go back to Saheeli. Scry 1 Saheeli deals 1 damage to each opponent, which is cool for 3 mana. Love this card in like a Fevered Visions type deck. And then you can create a token that's a copy of an artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact. You can create tokens of your Thermal Alchemists in this type of deck. You can create tokens of Reality Smashers if you're going my old Reality Smasher type deck with Fevered Visions. Very, very cool ability. It's just value city even right off the bat, because let's say that you first turn... So what's a good 2-drop? Yeah, Thermal Alchemist, for example. You could immediately just create another Thermal Alchemist and have 2 0/3s that can probably keep Saheeli alive. Then start dishing out damage, and then that's another Thermal Alchemist that's going to start doing damage. So, never mind, it exiles at the beginning of next end step. Never mind. Yeah, that'd be busted if it just created another token. But still, here's where it's like Reality Smasher or any sort of enter the battlefield type effect that you can get advantage off of it. It does gain haste too, so even Thought-Knot Seer is not terrible to create a token of. We saw there was a couple of those Enter the Battlefield cards already that from this set that's been spoiled. There's been tons of them in the past sets, like Battle for Zendikar especially, that have a lot of ETB effects. And just creating a token of this, I think that even creating a token of the Reflector Mage is pretty sweet with Saheeli. I think that's the perfect ETB. That just seems stupid, actually. Oh, man. UWR with Nahiri and Saheeli seems really, really good. And I think Nahiri's going to get a lot more value because there's a lot more artifacts to punish with Nahiri. There wasn't a lot of artifacts in the past, seeing much standard play, and now Nahiri is going to get a lot of new targets. So, yeah, keep that in mind. I think UWR, Planeswalkers, Gideon, Saheeli, Nahiri is going to be a thing. They all seem to synergize really well with each other. Okay, well, that's a thing. Reflector Mage, of course, is going to be my favorite card to exploit with Saheeli. Alright, so the Oval Chase Dragster, Trample Haste, there's another Trample Haste for 4, Crew 1. On an open board, this is huge. This is 6 damage. And I probably like this a little bit better than the 5/3 one, other than the 5/3 one. Yeah, because it has Crew 1. The 5/3 one is probably in this format just as vulnerable to die. And this can die to, I guess Elvish Visionaries out of the format, but it can die to any 1/1 that just, like the Throbbing Inspector can kill it. And still absorb 2 of the damage, so it only gets in there for 4. Still, though, an open board, this card's great. Oh, it doesn't enter the battlefield and become a creature, though. So, yeah, they actually compete a lot with each other. I don't know. It will depend on the metagame exactly if these vehicles will be playable or not. Propeller Pioneer, Flying, Fabricate 1, and 4 mana. So this is just, in my opinion, inferior to the other one that we just saw, but this is another white token-based generator. So in the vast majority, I mean, it's either a 3/2 flyer or a 2/1 and a 1/1 with this guy with flying. So we have one pump spell in the format with Star Terrains. As we get another pump spell, this archetype is just wide open and limited. And another very solid uncommon drop here. And then a very, very solid removal spell in the form of Furious Reprisal. It deals 2 damage to each of 2 dark creatures and or players. That's a pretty sweet ability for limited. Inventor's Fair. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 more artifacts, you gain 1 life. Add a colorless mana to your mana pool, and sacrifice it to search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. Solid, solid, solid card. It is legendary, so most decks will probably only want 1, but it adds that colorless mana for Eldrazi. It helps stabilize a little bit with, I mean, this is where I'd like Whirler Rogue back in the format, and the Hangerback Walker type cards. But I think we're going to still see a ton more artifacts. The servo tokens are artifacts. And that 1 life per turn is actually pretty relevant in a format with humans and red that is just begging, and especially even Fevered Visions, that is just begging for a few more cards to make them really, really good. And any little life gain, especially incremental life gain, with no really drawback. I mean, this is land. You just play the land. It's pretty sweet. So I love this card. It's 100% going to see play. You can see play even up easily into Modern. Because Modern, like Lantern Control, they don't usually need too much fixing. Especially if they don't run specific cards like Abrupt Decay. Most do, but in the past we've seen even a more all-in Lantern Control type deck. And this is a perfect card because it can go tutor up those Ensnaring Bridges or tutor up the kind of the win cons for Inventor's Fair. So I 100% think that this card's going to see play in Standard, 100% in Modern. It's just the perfect land that has no drawback and just like a huge plus, especially just playing it as a one-of. So even Tron, I don't think this is that bad because it's a land you can tutor with the Sylvan Scrying and then sack it if you have enough artifacts for that. So I don't know. There's a ton of decks that this card is wanting to be a part of. We have Saheeli's Artistry, which is create a token that's a copy of target token for 6 mana. Create a token that's a copy of target creature. So it's choose one or both. So it's a double clone. Amazing commander card. Is it just too much for Standard? This is actually copying if there was like a Wormcoil engine. Oh wow, you can copy it twice? That's insane. So if you get a cool artifact creature, this is really, really good. But all in all, there's still artifacts that are great to copy. And then a creature. This is just Value City. This could easily see play in Standard. All right, so on to the last card I want to talk about, which is the Aetherworks Marvel. This card is insane. This is the card that I think if a card has had the ability to be banned, or that just the need to be banned in a standard format, it could be this Aetherworks Marvel. And mainly because we are just coming out of a set that wants to cast cards, and these cards that do become cast have insane abilities. So, Kozilek, Ulamog, Emrakul, Worldbreaker, some other ones here with cast abilities. That any of the merge cards that you can cast. Again, you can do this instant speed by just paying the energy. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. So the artifact at the very top we talked about, turn 2, add 3. Turn 3, sacrifice, add 3. You gain 6 life. Turn 4, cast the Aetherworks Marvel, tap it. Find a Emrakul, find an Ulamog. Ulamog, of course, would be the more busted one, but still, turn 4, they're going to be able to deal with an Emrakul, especially when you get to take their turn and do all those nasty stuff to them. This is also an artifact, so if somehow it goes in your graveyard, it's great for Delirium. Whenever a permanent you control is put into your graveyard, you get an energy. So I believe that a permanent has to be in play. You can't put if it's from your hand, I believe it's just called a card, right? So I don't think you like self-mill, but people have already been talking about like Greater Gargadon in Modern, or eggs, like a not Second Sunder, a face reward type card in Modern, like sacking everything, then bringing it back, and then tapping this to add 6 because you've already had that many permanents go to the graveyard, and then finding another. So look at that. You may pay anything. It's not even a permanent that you can pay for. For the 6 mana, you can pay for anything. So finding like an Open the Vaults or another Second Sunrise and doing it all over again. I like this card so far in the modern shells. I think the Aetherworks Marvel works very, very well in is going to be eggs, going to be Tezzerator, going to be in Burial Gifts. I think that this works perfectly in. I think some sort of Tron shells might like it, but they'd have to go in more of a cycling type Tron shell. This could even go in, so again, any sort of the eggs type strategies. Urza's Bauble is another card that actually works pretty well with this because the permanent comes into play. Evoke cards will come into play, then die. So looking at the 2 mana or 3 mana evoke card where you draw 2 cards and then you'd add an energy from it. Fetch lands, go to the graveyard, so you add an energy. Ghost Quarters, you have Ghost Quarters with the white land that I use in Soul Sisters. What's the card I'm thinking of here? It's Flagstones of Trocaire, and that right there, if you use Ghost Quarters, Flagstones of Trocaire, you get 2 more lands back and 2 energy. And so a card like this in the format wouldn't even be bad for just like late game grinding, especially like this card against like heavy control decks that are killing your permanents. As soon as you just get up to 6, you're going to be able to just pay the energy and then just get value out of it. I mean, this just seems to be a card that could go nuts, and I really think that it could be on the chopping block again because of the Eldrazi. Without the Eldrazi, is it that busted? Possibly not. With the Eldrazi and take extra turn cards and what else do we have in the format that just wants to be busted out for just a lot of mana? There's got to be cards that I've been thinking of. Go back to my deck that I just barely brewed for that like late night brew with the Emeria Shepherd. Emeria Shepherd, I already figured out a combo that you can just keep sacrificing a few cards with a sack outlet and Primal Druid or Uvenwall Hydra. We'll go get you a land and then you can sacrifice those and we'll go get you a land and put it back into play and we'll get you. With Aetherworks Marvel, this is another way just to generate a ton of energy and do it all over again. So if you can find like that second retreat or that second Emeria Shepherd, then you're going to have even more of these triggers happening and even more ways to really just exploit this ability. If you have another way to untap an artifact, that's even better. And I think there is some in the format at the moment. Untap a permanent? Is there untap a permanent in the format somewhere? I don't know. But just creatures alone, there are ways to actually turn artifacts into creatures. We've seen that. We already saw a card right here, Sahili. You can make it a creature. You'll have to keep the legendary. You'll have to kill this one and keep the legendary token that comes into play, and then you could just keep doing that over and over and over with untapping it with Retreat to Core Helm. Yeah, there's got to be some really stupid combos in Standard. In Modern, my God. The good thing in news in Modern is artifacts are very vulnerable. You have the cards like Kolgan's Command that kill it, and just like basically Affinity, whenever Affinity's big, people are going to be packing Artifact Hate. Stony Silence just shuts it down in its tracks. So, yeah, I believe this does work with tokens. Someone correct me in the comment section below, because there's another Eldrazi Brood Monitor and Eldrazi Displacer combo that just goes insane with the Aetherworks Marvel. And yeah, I'm just really loving this card. I think it's nuts, and might be the first card that's banned in Standard since Jace the Mind Sculptor. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, I'm up to 40 minutes. I've ranted. I've just rambled. So far, this set is really creative. It looks really fun. The power level seems on par with the other sets, but nothing too crazy yet. I mean, I think we've seen the mythics that are going to be the power mythics. There's actually not a lot of mythics left to spoil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is there usually? 12 to 14 mythics in a set? I can't remember the exact numbers. So anyway, we've seen probably the powerful ones. All of them are really cool. We'll see another Planeswalker. It'll probably be Chandra, and so hopefully that card will actually be good. We actually have a decent Chandra in the format right now that also wants to be cheated out. So anyway, just some food for thought. Let me know in the comment section below what your favorite card is. Aetherworks Marvel, insane. Do you agree or disagree with me with my assessment? Even without tokens counting, I still think it's a busted card with a lot of combos that can be done, and especially it looks like they're going to support it so much with like Aetherstorm Rock and the Architect of Untamed. They can just go crazy with it. Keep in mind, Evolving Wilds is still a card, so if you have the Architect out and the Aetherworks Marvel out, and then you Evolving Wilds on turn 5, there's an energy. You sack it, there's an energy. Another land comes into play, there's an energy. So you basically get 3 energy off of that, and then you're really close on the turn after that from really going nuts with the Aetherworks Marvel. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.